Hello and welcome to Smaulgld. In case you missed the top gold and silver stories for the week ended August 13th, 2017. Fidelity investments to allow customers to view Coinbase accounts on the Fidelity platform. Coinbase takes cryptocurrencies mainstream with Fidelity investment deal. Coinbase also raised another $100 million during the week. For those of you who don't know what Coinbase is, it is a electronic trading platform that allows people to buy and sell cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin, and also to store them on the site in wallets or in vault form. Now, other stories. Trump promises fire and fury on North Korea, and white nationalists march in Charlottesville. We're just going to mention those headlines. We're not going to discuss the stories. There's plenty of places online where you can read about those stories. You can debate those stories. You can get all the different sides of the stories. I just mentioned them because they do influence the gold and silver markets and perhaps the crypto markets due to the fact that they are volatile situations, and generally if there is turmoil or some type of chaos or perceived chaos, that is generally good for gold and silver. But keep in mind, only good for gold and silver during the period of time that which the chaos persists. If these two incidents are one-offs, then you really can't expect any long-term benefit, or say it's a benefit, I mean benefit to the precious metals, to these chaotic situations. But if, however, there is a tense situation with North Korea, or you have continued protests, counter-protests, marches, and so on, those types of things, if they persist, are generally good for gold and silver. Getting silver from rice fields is a story linked in here on the blog post, talking about a new mining operation where you can get silver out of rice fields. We'll take a look at that and provide the link for you to check that out. Speaking about mining, Russia, a Putin aide, is going to do an initial coin offering to raise $100 million in order to do Bitcoin mining to rival China. So we'll talk about that as well. We'll provide a link. Also, we're going to talk about the alternative financial media's recent story based on the Achain ICO, where there was rampant speculation that the company was involved with the IMF. They were going to issue SDRs. In fact, they were going to enslave humanity. And the real kicker in all this was Americans weren't even going to be allowed to protect themselves by getting involved in this ICO that was digitizing tea. Sounds fantastical if you present it that way, but if it's not presented that way, it could sound like a reasonable speculation. Well, it's not. Let's go through it. Alternative financial media speculates wildly on IMF SDR offering. So there is this ICO being proposed by a company called Achain, and in their ICO documents, they have all kinds of weird stuff, and it looks New World Order. And granted, you could see where you start to think about this as a very strange offering with New World Order undertones. And then you find out in the offering document they reference the SDR. Well, that really sends off alarm bells, because the SDR has been touted around as being the next world reserve currency. And therefore, if they were to do it through the back door through a Chinese company, well, all types of fantastical scenarios could enter into your mind. However, this is the case where you start with a premise. Yes, the IMF has got this global currency on its mind. In fact, it was on the Rothschild's Economist magazine, New World Currency, in 2018, 20 years ago. Well, once you start with that premise, then you go and you look for facts and omissions and speculate and present the speculator as an expert. And then you find something like this Achain story, you bring that expert out, and then you let the imagination run wild. And then people will insist there's a scheme going on to enslave humanity, and therefore you need to buy gold. And that's going to then get the followers all excited, about this smart lady. They're going to repeat it. They're going to insist it's true. And once they've established that there's a possibility that this story is true, well, you better believe it's true. Once that concept has been put in people's mind, debunking it now becomes the task of trolls. This woman said something and it's true. Well, it has to be true because there was an Economist cover, and we know the IMF is evil, and we know they're always lying. So now, go ahead and disprove this story. All right, well, I'm going to be a troll, so to speak, and I'm going to tell you why this story is absolute 100% nonsense. Okay, one of the facts, or one of the omissions that was presented, by the way, this was SGD Report and Lynette Zhang on a YouTube video. And to their credit, they did say they were speculating. But once you present it as speculation, but then you provide the aha moments, people start to, it develops a life of their own, and people think they're going to believe it, and they're insisting it's true. To their credit, they did say they didn't know why certain things were omitted, but they speculated. And they were also uncertain as to why SDRs were mentioned. Okay, I'm going to clear up both of those points. One of the points they made was this ICO token, which had all these weird overtures and it just looked creepy, said that they were not going to allow US citizens to participate. Now, this ICO was supposed to digitize, or is going to digitize, certain assets and then offer the tokens. And the assets they were first going to digitize were T, which, okay, I don't know why you'd want to digitize T. I guess there's some value in T, but wouldn't be the first thing I'd digitize. But in any event, that's one of them. The other one was some Texas land. All right, so the idea is you're going to digitize all these assets, put them all on the blockchains, and now humanity is going to be enslaved because all the assets in the world will be digitized. Not only will they be digitized, that somehow this company was going to get them all. Why? Well, because this company mentioned SDRs. And because they mentioned SDRs, that meant they were involved with the IMF. And if the IMF is involved, well, then they're going to do this global takeover of all the assets. Okay, good luck with that. But let's stick to the idea that Americans are not allowed. The offering document clearly stated Americans can't be allowed. Well, anyone who's ever been involved in initial public offerings, or even lately initial coin offerings, knows that due to SEC registration requirements and liabilities under the security laws, international offerings will almost inevitably not include US citizens. It's just not worth the trouble. Well, that didn't stop SGT Report from suggesting that this is something deeply suspicious, because that omission was probably designed to prevent Americans from protecting themselves. Okay. That's against the dangers of globalization and enslavement of humanity, which can only be cured by allowing yourself to participate in buying digitized tea. Now think how ridiculous that sounds. And by the way, if this was supposed to be some global currency, they're not going to let Americans in on it. How can it be a global currency if Americans can't participate in the ICO? Well, we know why they can't participate in the ICO. The offering, the issuer does not want to get Americans involved because they don't want to deal with the SEC. They don't want to deal with the registration requirements. They don't want to deal with the potential liability. It's the same reason why Americans can't get bank accounts overseas, not because of the SEC, but because of another law called FATCA, where they make the bank, the foreign bank, hand over all the information to the United States, to the IRS. Okay, so that omission was not nefarious. It wasn't designed to prevent Americans from protecting themselves. Okay, understandable. They didn't know that, but they presented the guest as an expert, and that's not really something an expert. I think if you're an expert and you deal in securities and offerings, you would kind of know that is on. And if you know about ICOs, you know about IPOs, you know that Americans are not allowed, or the offering companies try to keep them out of the offering. The second one was, well, wait, SDRs. They mentioned SDRs. Why would they mention SDRs? Well, first of all, you need to know what an SDR is. And if you're interested in 20 minutes of knowing what an SDR is, I've did a video on it. I made no mention of this ICO. This is just a purely instructional video on what SDRs are. And by the way, I made a mistake. At the beginning, I called SDRs, which are special drawing rights, strategic drawing rights, but everything else in the video is correct. Okay. Just because a company that's issuing a token references SDRs doesn't mean they are associated with the IMF. Now, well, why then mention SDRs? Marketing? By the way, the SDR, all it is you can price things in SDRs. All it is a basket of currencies. It's a reference point of yen, euro, dollar, pound, and Chinese yuan. So when you do an international offering and you want to value your token, well, rather than value it in dollars, why not value it in international currencies rolled up into a basket called the SDR? That doesn't mean the IMF is involved in it. In fact, Jay Snip, he got and I don't verify this, and he doesn't verify it either, but I kind of believe it's true, is that someone else had written a letter to the IMF, said, "Are you involved in this ICO from Achain?" And they said, "No." Now, everyone says, well, of course they're not going to admit it. They're lying. Well, once you start with the idea that anything is possible, and all you have to do is throw out an accusation, well, then, of course, you can never disprove something that you had no right believing in the first place. But here's the thing about the IMF. There's 189 member countries. It would be literally impossible for them to delegate their authority. They're the ones, the IMF is the one who issues SDRs, and they issue them to other banks, the other 189 member banks, to somehow do a runaround all 189 countries and give this new power to a Chinese ICO company who's digitizing tea to do a public offering of these and then not include Americans. You know, remember, the United States kind of controls the IMF. This whole thing is a ridiculous story. If you know anything about SDRs, they are a central bank interbank asset that was designed to create liquidity. You can price things in SDRs. China does its finances. The central bank, they'll produce something in SDRs. When I do the Russian gold updates, maybe I should just include how many SDRs they have. SDRs are an interbank asset, but they have a value, and that value is based on the currencies I mentioned: yuan, yen, euro, pound, and dollar. So if you take those, that's just a pricing mechanism. So what I suspect is this Achain ICO is just pricing its tokens based on the SDR. Enough on that. It's just that I see so many of these stories, and once they get a life of their own, you can't get rid of them. It's similar in a way to trying to prove that the Trump administration was not involved with Russia during the campaign. So they set up a special prosecutor to find a collusion. It's the same thing here. This Achain ICO, because they mentioned SDR, now everyone's going to be trying to find some connection to the IMF when there isn't one. But again, these are the types of stories that we see, and then people get a mindset that this is what's happening. And then the real bad part of this was, and therefore, because the IMF is involved with this one, this Achain ICO, they're not, that all cryptocurrencies are bad, and therefore you should stay away from them. And guess what? Buy gold. Where do I buy gold? From me. My company sells gold. See, that's there are two issues here, and they were cleverly strung together. That there's this nefarious intent. It's from the IMF. They're going to enslave humanity. They're going to use cryptos. And by the way, here's the crypto they're going to use: Achain ICO. See, they said SDR. And we have to stop this. We're going to fight this, and everyone loves to be part of the fight. And what are you fighting? You're tilting windmills here. All right, let's get on to the next top story: Fidelity and Coinbase. Now, this is a real story. Fidelity is now allowing its customers to view Coinbase holdings through its platform. Fidelity is a stock trading platform. Coinbase has 9.2 million account holders. It's a lot. But I'm sure a lot of people just have them and they don't trade a lot on them. But you go to Coinbase, you can buy Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. And they've traded about $20 billion worth of those coins over the past couple of years that they've been in existence. Now, Bitcoin has a market cap of about 63, 64, 65. It keeps going up billion. Litecoin, I don't know, it's 2 or 3 billion. I think that recently Ethereum is about 25 billion. Anyway, it's a lot, but the whole scheme of things is $100 billion or so in cryptocurrency, a little more than that. You know that stocks, bonds, all that kind of stuff, that's where all the money is traded. Well, Fidelity has nearly 70 million account holders at the end of the first quarter, and they have $2.2 trillion under management. and $6 trillion under administration through IRAs and 401ks and so on. So Fidelity is huge. Now, this little tech integration where you go to your Fidelity account and you can link your Coinbase account, the only reason you can do that, it's not a big tech thing, is that Fidelity wants to learn how this trading platform works. Now, I mentioned Coinbase just raised $100 million. Now, this is speculation, but this is grounded. What I'm going to give you is grounded in facts. Coinbase is on the Fidelity platform. There is a connection. It's not like Achain mentions SDRs and therefore the IMF is involved. No, Coinbase is now linked on the Fidelity platform. Okay, and therefore Fidelity wants to learn more about Coinbase because it trades and allows trading of cryptocurrencies and storing of cryptocurrencies on its platform. Well, they see that growing. Don't you think Fidelity wants to get in on that? Of course they do. They are not staying away from it. In fact, the head of Fidelity has been a big proponent of cryptocurrencies. They tested using it in the company cafeteria, Bitcoin, with their 45,000 employees. They are proponents of cryptocurrencies. And why not? There's money in this. Again, you could be against cryptocurrencies. You could think they're useless. We're past that point. There's big money in these things now. That's why you're seeing the prices rise. My whole main reason against cryptocurrencies was they came out of thin air and they didn't have any value. Well, that argument's no longer valid. They do have value. They're proven to have value because how? They're actually valued in fiat currency. When they give a dollar value of $100 billion, you can't say, well, that has no value. That's just people messing around. Well, if you could figure out how to mess around and get $100 billion out of it, you let me know. That's what these cryptocurrencies have done. So this video will show you how you can get your Coinbase account linked to Fidelity. So the speculation here is Fidelity at some point will either want to buy Coinbase or buy a company like Coinbase or get their learning from Coinbase and offer that to their own customers. And what's the significance of that? This number right here, 70 million account holders with $2.2 trillion under management. You only have to add a small percentage of those $2 trillion and move it into a Coinbase cryptocurrency account, and you're going to see big rises in the cryptos. So that's speculation. I normally don't do this kind of speculation, but this is just connecting the dots. This one's obvious. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This isn't me trotting myself out as some kind of expert. No, this is something that is real and explains the big jump. Not this one deal, but the numbers explain the big jump in cryptocurrencies, because as more money is attracted to the sector, as the prices rise, you get this snowball effect and you get people interested in it. And you bring in a company like Fidelity, and you only get 1% of these people to put 1% of their money into it. That's another big push. Take Schwab, take all the other stock accounts, and you start to see other money moving from other assets into cryptocurrencies. And by the way, there's going to be gold and silver cryptocurrency. So none of this is necessarily a bad thing. The bad thing, I do agree, is when you have a centralized government or world entity getting those assets. But if people are trading this stuff on their own on a decentralized platform, there really is nothing to worry about, other than there is the point once everything is online. And I've made this this point in my dark side of the cashless society. You want to check that out. It's in the side column over here. Then you're kind of a slave to not necessarily a government, but an entity that holds for you your digital assets. There it is, right? Dark side of cashless society. You could check that out. But in any event, that's the Fidelity story. Let's get on to the rest of the big stories of the week. By the way, if you're interested in opening a Coinbase account, this is just coincidental. I've been offering this. I have a number of offers on the website. That's how I get some money to do what I do. Through affiliate deals, you can buy gold and silver through the links on the site. Not from me, but from affiliates. Buy gold and BJSC, Golden Eagle Coin, Money Metals Exchange, SD Bullion. I get a small commission if you do buy. None of this is investment advice, but if you are interested in buying precious metals, you can do so through the site. Similarly, if you want to open one of these Coinbase accounts, you can do so. You buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, you get $10 worth of free Bitcoin. Smaulgld gets $10 worth of free Bitcoin. So you can say I don't make a lot of money doing this, but it does help. Also, if you want to learn more about silver and you appreciate the type of work that I do in analysis, I try not to tout anything. I try to give as many facts as possible. I've done a 30, 40, 50 page silver report with 4 videos that go with it, and it costs $20, and you can buy it below, and you can also buy it direct. I got a link right here. You can just pay right there, $20. If you are a Smaulgld patron, you can pay $15. And the way you become a Smaulgld patron is you sign up here to donate a small amount or a large amount every month. I think I have 9 patrons. You can see I don't have a lot of, I've got a couple of thousand subscribers. I have 9 patrons. I do not have a big money making operation here. Doesn't stop me though. You can donate too via PayPal, Bitcoin, or Litecoin. All right, let's get to the gold and silver stories. Gold closed last week up 2.4%, but silver had a better week and it closed up to $17.10, up 5.3%. And you can see here, we cover this every week, gold silver ratio fell a bit, but it closed at 75.36. This is last month's chart. I have updated it, but it's not showing here. That was last week's chart. Okay, so there's Trump and his fire and fury. You're interested? I lifted. This is nothing more than a Twitter thing, but you can click on it, listen to him rage against or threaten North Korea. Here's something I sent over to SGT Report. He published it. A very interesting story. It's not new. It's from 1961. If you're fans of Kurt Vonnegut, American author, he had a story written in 1961 where everyone was equal in every way under the 211th, 12th, and 13th Amendments to the Constitution. Very interesting story. You can't be too smart. You can't be too good looking. You can't be too good at anything, because that would give you, in a sense, privilege. It's kind of this 1961 story presaged all this nonsense about everyone has privilege if you're too smart, or you're too tall, or whatever it is. So it's a very interesting story. If you want to read it, give it a click. Well, we also had a very odd week in gold and silver, as we always do. The CPI comes in low, the dollar tanks, gold and silver rise as they should have, but then gold and silver tank. But they managed to regain their footing by the end of the week. But still, you see these irrational movements in the gold and silver markets. They just get hit. I guess they're going up too high or too fast, or they just been too high too long, and then you see these smash downs happen in both gold and silver. All right, what else did we learn during the week? People's Bank of China's gold buying program remained on hold. Remember, that's the People's Bank of China. I'm not going to go into that today, but you can click on the link. You can check out the video. Flecks of gold can help fight cancers. Check that story out. Demystifying London's gold and silver vault holdings. We found out that lots of gold in London that they disclosed in the London vaults. Not too much silver, but still some. Payment in gold bullion banned under new law to combat tax evasion. I think what they're getting at there is not that you can't pay in bullion. I think a lot of what they do is they if the coin is 50 pounds, they say only gave them 50 pounds, so therefore the person didn't make that much money, but really what they got was a coin worth $1,200. Anyway, gold reserves to surpass 4,000 tons. This is a strange story. This is from a Chinese news outlet, which obviously the government knows about. And we know that the Chinese have officially, or the People's Bank of China has officially said they have 1,842 tons of gold. And this place is saying that, this news outlet saying they got 4,000 tons. Well, we've already shown actually in this video above here, if you go to this one, I go through where you can see there's clearly at least 15,000 tons in China. It's just not at the People's Bank of China's balance sheet. Why this particular outlet is trying to claim they have 4,000 tons, might as well claim they have 15,000 tons. Anyway. Platinum gathers pace on latest Russian sanctions. Maybe people don't know, but Russia is the second largest producer of platinum. It's only really produced in South Africa, Russia, and in smaller quantities in the United States, but the bulk of it comes from South Africa and Russia. So if you're going to put sanctions on Russia, platinum supply demand, at least that's what the price is based on, platinum would go up. So the gold seizure story at the Bangladesh airport, you can check that out. There was some de-dollarization talk. Of course, anytime you tell a country we're going to put sanctions on you, they got to get around them. So Moscow wants to cut dependence on U.S. payment systems. and they're going to work on cutting that dependence on the dollar as a payment currency. However, I don't think that they're going to reduce their dollar denominated reserves. They'll hold them as dollars, but they'll swap them out when they want to transact. So there's a big difference between dumping the dollar and then not using the dollar, because you can still hold treasuries as reserves. Then when you want to transact, you sell them, and then you transact on whatever different platform or different currency you wish, just like you do with Bitcoin. You don't transact in Bitcoin for the most part. You cash them out and then you spend the dollars. Fed chatter, Bullard yakking. It's almost painful to go through what these guys say, but you can. I'm not even going to say. I'm not even going to go over. You just read it and take it for what it's worth. It has nothing to do with anything as far as I'm concerned. Perth Mint gold sales topped the U.S. Mint gold sales for the 5th month in a row. That's a pretty big deal. And U.S. Mint through August, they had one report or two reports, nothing. They reported selling very little in August so far. A few hundred gold eagles, 110,000. American silver eagles, nothing. Oh, there was this I'm not going to cover this either. Anti-diversity Google memo. The guy got fired for expressing diverse views that went against the diversity culture at Google, which is anti-conservative. So diverse means everything but conservative, and that's what he was saying. And then, of course, he made a few comments about women, and there he goes. He's fired. All right, what else do we got? Here, this Putin aid seeks 100 million to rival China in Bitcoin mining. You check out that story. They're going to do an ICO, and they realize that they have access to cheap electricity too. It's going to be more expensive to mine Bitcoins in the future, and it's going to be more lucrative because it's harder to do. It requires more computing power. So one of the Putin's buddies is going to try to get $100 million and set up a Bitcoin mining shop, and I think they're going to give 18% of the proceeds to people who buy those tokens. But Americans can't participate. There must be some type of conspiracy. ICOs unaffected by SEC ruling. This is very interesting. The SEC comes out 2 weeks ago. I covered this story as well. They claim that the DAO was a security. It should have been registered, but they took no action. And they basically warned the ICO community, these might be securities, don't get in trouble. And this report here shows that ICOs are still going gangbusters. They're raising more capital than IPOs are. Again, go back to the top story. ICOs raising more money than IPOs. Okay, Fidelity, all that money that's in the Fidelity accounts eventually started as an IPO. They don't want to miss that money. So if it's going to be ICOs, Fidelity has got to be there. Perth Mint sales in July, they're pretty good. I won't go through that. Here, Swiss National Bank cuts mining shares, boosts unicorn holdings. So I reported a year ago that the Swiss National Bank was buying mining shares. I was pretty excited about that. Mining shares were going up, and they had about $1 billion worth of them. Well, now they have about 600-700 million of them. They had almost $1 billion in the end of the second quarter 2016, and now they've lost about 300 million of those shares. But that didn't stop them from boosting their Tesla and their Zillow and all their other unicorn shares. They boosted those 40 to 60%. So the Swiss National Bank, the prudent issuer of the franc, they're buying unicorn stocks and they're increasing their amounts. Here's a story on Coinbase. Gold imports in India double in July. We're seeing a lot of strong imports into India, strong imports into China via Hong Kong of gold and silver. Here's more Bullard talk. I'm not going to read it. Indian gold imports surge again in June. Here's a story in the Wall Street Journal questioning, although they had Ronan Manley was cited in this and a couple of other people you might have heard of. Fed has 6,200 tons of gold in Manhattan basement, or does it? Interesting story. Indians have devised novel way to extract silver from paddy. I'll leave you a link here. You can click on it. I'm not going to read it to you. Leave that to other people who read stories off the internet. PPI down. Initial claims up. Dudley again. This guy, they love to trot out to yak. He's the president of the New York Federal Reserve. Silver imports slow in June. Here's a story in the SDRs I published. Coinbase raises another 100 million. There's your US Mint sales update. And that does it for the week. Thank you very much for listening. Remember to like, subscribe. Also go over to Smaulgld, check out the charts. You can see them better. Subscribe here, up to 756 subscribers. Thank you very much.